Just days after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the biggest Fed or government-backed US bank bailout since 2008, we have yet another massive bank, this time an incredibly massive bank. One of the 33 biggest banks in the entire world is incredibly dangerous territory. This is Credit Suisse. This is the big Swiss bank. And we have three major revelations. First of all, the stock fell by, 24%, the biggest single day sell-off ever. The biggest shareholder, the Saudi Arabian government, is saying, no more money for you, Credit Suisse. We've been hearing about CS being in dangerous jeopardy for quite some time now. And now it seems like the day of reckoning is upon us. We've seen them now appeal to the government, the Swiss government, for a public show of support. We're seeing the credit default swaps go sky high, meaning essentially the market is betting that they are insolvent, that they are going to need to be bailed out, and that people are unwilling, or it's getting extremely expensive to backstop deposits within that bank. Effectively, the writing is on the wall. Credit Suisse is in trouble. Now, does it mean they're going to go under? I have no idea. But I want to be very clear. When we said last week that the government had some very interesting details in their bailout for SVB, one of those important details was this, that these bonds that they were buying, underwater bonds, we all know what's going on, right? The government issued bonds, they raised interest rates aggressively, and from 2021 and 2020, all the banks that bought those bonds when their interest rate was zero, well, when they raised interest rates aggressively, the actual value of those low yielding bonds started dropping because people could get higher and higher yields on the newer bonds. So effectively, those older bonds weren't worth much. And so what the government is saying is, hey, look, we created this problem, so we'll buy those underweight bonds back from you at the original face value, helping you sort of accelerate your buyback of the bond, because it's really it's a time issue. It's not a money issue as much. Regardless of that, what I want to explain here is that this is a global issue. This isn't just for US banks. The people who buy the US debt are global institutions, banks all around the world. This is not something that just affects Silvergate Bank, that just affects Silicon Valley Bank, that just affects Signature Bank. This is something that is affecting banks across the world, and we're seeing that now with Credit Suisse, and we're seeing that the Fed and the Treasury are actively monitoring the situation, meaning that they're prepared to potentially be the buyer of last resort, the bailer outer of global financial institutions, not just here in the US. If this is an issue, this is not an issue that the Swiss government can solve. This is an issue that only the US government can solve. And so now you're starting to understand what's going on with the US dollar. On one side, the government is trying to make money more expensive, to control the cost of inflation, to make the dollar more valuable versus goods and services, foods, and all that stuff. On the other side, the government is in a tough place because they'll need to bail out these banks and fix the financial system if there are cracks in the armor. Because of course, if people go to withdraw their money from the bank and they can't get it, that's going to be that's going to bring into question capitalism itself. Now, obviously, the hard right capitalists, the super conservative libertarians will say, yeah, that is capitalism. There's failures, there's pain, there's suffering. Obviously, in crypto, we're no stranger to hard lessons, right? We got the lessons with Celsius and Voyager and FTX and BlockFi, and it's endless the amount of BS that we've had to deal with in this industry when we think that there's a reliable financial service. So believe us, in crypto land, we know. But the mainstreamers, the normies, imagine if you showed up to the bank and you just can't get your money. That's, of course, what we talk about here day in and day out when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto being immutable money that you control, that nobody can take from you. But it doesn't mean anything until the moment of reckoning comes, when actually banks start failing. So the question is, will this be a liquidity crunch? Will people sell off Bitcoin en masse? Or will this be the moment where people collectively come to understand the value of decentralized money? The answer is very much undecided, but if we've seen any little indications from the Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, the Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, when they were shut down, this was clearly a wake-up call, a bat signal that people were looking at Bitcoin. Now, was this just whales pushing the price up to sort of go with the narrative? You know, there's a lot of things that can be misdirected in these moments of crisis and huge events. What I want to say is this. It is very, very historic what we're living through. And quite possibly, this is the watershed moment for Bitcoin, where it shows, with the backdrop of a global financial system that is being called into question, where the only real fix to this banking issue is for the government to endlessly backstop and print money and to eat bad assets, to effectively spend, right? You can say whatever you want to say, but the government buying underweight assets to fix a depositor problem is them spending money, right? On one side, they're trying to make money more expensive, trying to fight inflation. On the other side, they have to make money cheaper to effectively save the banking system. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. It is impossible, the situation they're in. But this could be the moment in which Bitcoin shows that it really is the cure for all this, that it really is everything we had hoped for and dreamed about over the past decade plus of building this incredibly nascent but important industry. And for me, I can only hope that people who have believed in and supported this technology are handsomely rewarded. What I can say is we're living through history, absolute history, and including, like I said, Jim Cramer making the worst calls of all time. It's unbelievable. I tweeted today that I believe he's a government psyop designed to rob the baby boomers of their wealth and transfer it back to the state or to the hedge funds, whatever. The point is, right now, we are living through the most crazy time in history. The banking crisis today, as Credit Suisse now slips into jeopardy, we can see that if a big bank, the biggest of the big, like Credit Suisse, can be in trouble, well, that's going to completely change the way people around the world perceive banking, completely. I'm talking to all kinds of entrepreneurs, business people, people who run publicly traded companies. Everyone is asking us, how do you manage against this risk? Because they've never had to think about it like this. They've never had to deal with it like this. Regional banks, everything but the biggest, most systemically important banks are being essentially fled from. We saw $15 billion in deposits into Bank of America over the last few days, $15 billion. We heard JP Morgan Chase has had the most historic, by a long shot, the most deposits flooding into their bank that they've ever seen before. So the top banks are getting all the money, and they're not necessarily completely safe either. We've seen that with Credit Suisse, right? So what we need to understand is that this situation is rapidly evolving, and this could very well be the catalyst to people understanding, valuing, and once again flocking to things like Bitcoin, which will change the future of cryptocurrency forever. As always, I'm Elio Trades. This video that's about to pop up right here is absolutely incredible. Make sure you watch it. If you guys are enjoying this content, throughout the hardest periods in this industry, so many content creators disappeared throughout this bear. So many entrepreneurs disappeared throughout this bear. Me, my team, we have continued to crank day over day over day. No matter how bad the news, no matter how bad the crypto ecosystem has dropped into the depths of the bear, I've been here and I will continue to be here. And if that means something to you, then make sure you subscribe, put that bell notification on, set it to all notifications, and I will see you very soon on the next episode. Again, this video is going to be awesome. Make sure you watch it. I'll see you soon.